Hello, Gremlins! Today I want to make myself a mushroom hat. Specifically, an ink cap mushroom, because these are my favorite type of mushrooms. I mean, look at them. I'm gonna insert images here in editing. Look at them! I mean, they just kind of fit the vibe. Like, I love fly agaric mushrooms, toadstools. You can see multiple examples of toadstools behind me, but like, I don't wear red. And ink cap mushrooms are shades of grey and black, and those are colors I actually wear. So I'm going to make myself an ink cap mushroom hat this week. I don't know what I'm doing. I'm mostly going off a Rachel Maxey video that I'm going to rewatch for this. I haven't rewatched it yet, but I'm going to. And I'm using a bunch of scrap cardboard that I've got, and I'll probably figure out how to paper mache with some random newspaper and toilet paper. So hopefully this works. We shall see. Come along with me and see what we can do. Currently my mic situation is just fully holding my headphones so that the mic, I can use it like a holdable mic, because I don't have anything that can like clip onto my clothes, and I don't want to wear the headphones in every clip because they're big and bulky, and also I like these ears. Also, very specifically for this clip, I need to be able to measure my head, because that is my step one. I've got a measuring tape. I'm going to measure around my head, around where I want the mushroom hat to be able to sit, and then I'm going to figure out how to transfer that to my cardboard. Can you tell that I don't know what I'm doing? I measured the circumference of my head around the top of my forehead to the middle back of my head, where I wanted the mushroom hat to sit. It came out to 52 centimeters. I think I might have to do some math here. Hold on, I need to use my phone for the math. I did some very quick math just on the corner of the cardboard I'm going to be using, and I think my radius needs to be 8.28 centimeters, which means my diameter needs to be twice that. Am I about to try and do math on camera? Yes. 16.6 around 16.6 centimeters diameter. And then I can figure out how to make that a circle from there. Sorry about the focus in this clip, my phone was struggling to stay focused on the cardboard. I don't have any proper circle making tools, so I just drew several 16.6 centimeter long lines that all converge at the 8.3 centimeter point in the middle, then connected the ends of those lines with a curve. I then cut out a circle with a craft knife and tried it on, unsuccessfully. Okay, so I've forgotten that heads aren't completely round, so I need to make it I need to cut a bit more off this way, and hopefully then it will fit. I need to grab myself some scissors. I'm using my scissors to widen the hole slightly at the forehead point to make the circle more of an egg shape. That's a much less clean cut than the craft knife got me. Let's try this on now. And now it's too big. Whee! It's a good thing I've got two pieces of cardboard. I can now trace this, but make it smaller, and try again. Fingers crossed that this works this time. I think I need to actually wait till after dinner, because I'm cooking dinner at the same time as this, and I don't want to burn my dinner. So I'm going to get back to this in like an hour or two. The light will probably be worse. But I'm determined to at least get the cardboard base cut out tonight. I'll see you then. I have eaten. That's important. I've watched through the Rachel Maxey video that I was inspired by, that I first watched like 2 years ago and haven't really watched since. Turns out she's not using any of the same supplies I have access to. She's like using foam, and yeah, mostly foam. I don't have foam, I've got cardboard. So we're fully winging this. Like, I am doing this with no instructions now, because I'm not going to look up something else. I'm just going to see how it goes, because this is how I roll. Anyway, I'm going to now try cutting out my other cardboard to actually fit my head, to be a smaller hole. And we'll see how this goes. I'm having fun. I don't know how this is going to turn out, but I am having fun. I started attempt 2 by placing my too large hole over my second piece of cardboard and tracing around the inside, adjusting the circle to be smaller as I go. I then cut it out with the same craft knife, being more careful to stay on the lines. Take 2. Better. I think I still need to cut off a little bit off here, but not too much, because I don't want to accidentally make it too big again. Although I have figured out I actually have 3 pieces of cardboard, so if I mess this up, I have one more chance before I need to acquire more free cardboard. So I'm just gonna trim a little bit. This is probably very dangerous, don't do what I'm doing. I'm gonna not do what I'm doing. Okay, having done that on a surface and not loose in the air and avoided cutting off any of my fingers, let's see. Oh yeah. Oh yeah, that'll work. I think. I might cut off a tiny bit more. I might want to be able to fabric line this to be comfortable, because, let's face it, a ring of cardboard around my head is not the most comfortable. I'm gonna trim just a tiny bit more off camera. Okay, we're good. We're good. Now I need to figure out how to make the outer ring. My main plan is I'm going to see if this plate is big enough to be able to trace around it. If not, I will have to figure something else out, because I don't have like a compass point or anything meant to make circles. Also, the lighting is very bad. I'm sorry. It's after sunset at this point, so I'm only using the overhead lights. It doesn't help that I'm fully putting a shader on over my face. Anyway, let's go see if we can make a big circle on this. It was immediately evident that my plate would not be anywhere near large enough to trace for the brim of my hat. I quickly had to invent a plan B. Plan B was to mark 10 centimeters out from the edge of the hole, all around the hole, then connect those marks in a circle. However, partway into that plan, I realized that this would lead to an egg-shaped mushroom, since the head hole is an egg shape. Finally, I moved on to plan C. I tied a scrap of string around a pencil as near to the point as I could, then taped the other end of the string to the floor in the center of the head hole, and used that to anchor the pencil down so I could only draw in a circle. It didn't create a perfect circle, but it created a place for me to start, and I adjusted the size from there freehand. Let's see if this works. I immediately screwed up as I started cutting along the wrong pencil line. I restarted along the correct line and taped up my mistake with some masking tape. The plate decidedly was not big enough, but I kind of figured it out, using a weird string method that only half worked, but I've used it before for circle skirts. It looks like a toilet seat, but it works. It works. I've got a base. Next step is figuring out how to do the upward stuff. I've got a whole stack of cereal boxes, so we're going to see if cutting those into strips and making some kind of frame will help. Again, I'm completely winging this. If this works, you can feel free to follow this as a tutorial. If it doesn't work, you can follow this as a what not to do tutorial. Cereal boxes acquired. I am not sponsored by Coles brand cornflakes, but I eat a lot of it, because it's cheap. I'm gonna cut these into strips and see what we can do with them. I did not realize that a cable was hanging right in front of the camera the entire time I was filming this clip until I started editing. I'm so sorry. Anyway, if you look past the cable, I flattened one of my cereal boxes and I'm cutting it into 4 centimeter wide strips the long way. I have strips, and I'm going to now stick them onto this with just regular masking tape. I hope I have enough. And if that works, then I'll stick them on with hot glue to be a bit more permanent. I just realized that my headphone mic is not plugged in, nor are my headphones anywhere near me, so the audio quality of this clip is probably trash. Time to masking tape. I started by taping the end of my strip to the edge of the disc, then securing the other end directly across from it. Since the strips are a lot longer than the disc is wide, it gives it a curved shape. I then realized that most of what I was doing was slightly off screen, and adjusted the camera so you can actually see. I added 4 strips to the disc in total, and they're all just slightly different lengths, which, combined with the not perfectly circular disc, meant that all the curves were at different heights. However, it's the start of a frame that I can adjust and work with until it actually looks good. I have made a frame. It's not a very good frame, but it is a frame. Hopefully this works. I don't entirely know what to do next. Actually, what I should do next is try the thing on. Oh yeah, that's mushroom shaped. It's not really... How do I hold this? There. It's not really ink cap shaped, but it's mushroom shaped. I can work with this, I think. Maybe. I'm going to try getting this to have a shape. I'm not sure how, but I will try. After puzzling over how to turn this mess into an actually mushroom-shaped frame, I started by cutting my strips in half and gluing them back together until the tops of the curves all line up in the center. I also cut the parts of the cardboard where the box was folded and stuck those back together overlapping to prevent any sharp corners on my frame. Okay. It has more shape now. Distinctly mushroom shape. I don't know if it's ink cap shape, but once I add all the details it'll look enough like an ink cap. Because I don't know how to get like the curve, the bell shape. Especially since this is my first time trying anything like this, I feel like the bell shape might be a step beyond words, a step beyond what I can do at the moment. So we're going with this. I'm going to get the hot glue gun out and where all the tape is, make it better, essentially. and then I'm going to figure out how to like thread things between it to make this a solid shape. Basically, this clip is what it says on the tin. One piece at a time, I removed my masking tape and replaced it with hot glue. Where the strips meet the disc at the edges was tricky to glue, mostly because the strips did not want to stay in place. I had to pack each edge with a lot of hot glue, then hold it in place until the glue was set, before I could move on, which made the process take a lot longer than I had expected. However, when the glue had dried, it was also a lot sturdier. Okay, so I've got a glue-gunned frame. I think my next step is going to be trying to weave any leftover cardboard strips I have between the frame to make it a more frameier frame. And then from there, I'm going to start paper macheing. And I'm probably going to wait till tomorrow to do the paper mache, because that's going to be messy, and it's already 8 p.m, and I would like to go to bed sometime in the next, 3 hours-ish. And I don't know how long the paper mache will take. I started this process by cutting all the strips of cardboard I had left over into much thinner and shorter strips. I then started weaving each smaller piece of cardboard between the larger frame structures, trying to make the gaps in the structure smaller for paper mache purposes. Because of the way the mushroom curves, each small piece of cardboard can only be woven between 3 structural supports tops before it curves too much and would stick out the bottom of the mushroom. I didn't bother hot gluing any of these pieces, I just kept using masking tape until I ran out of tape, then called it good enough. I have just run out of masking tape. So this is as much of a frame as we're getting for now. It's slightly wonky, but so are mushrooms, so that's fine. This is as much of a frame as I'm getting. Hopefully this is enough for me to be able to put paper mache on tomorrow. So I'm calling it good for tonight. See you all tomorrow. Also a brief interlude, but look at the state of my floor right now. Yeah, I'm gonna have to spend some time cleaning this up now. Yay! Okay, so it's the next day. I've got my frame here, and now my goal is to spend the evening paper macheing it. That way it has a couple days to dry, and I can still hopefully finish it this weekend. Paper mache and I don't have a great relationship, but we're going for it. So I'm going to set the camera up somewhere and film myself working on this, or just I don't know, watching old YouTube videos or something. I don't know. I will spend a few hours working on this. So I just spent about half an hour putting the first layer of paper mache on this hat, and then came around to the back of the camera to turn off the recording while I wait for this layer to dry before adding the second layer, and realized that my camera had not in fact been recording because my phone had turned off. I'm pretty sure my tripod pressed, the thing that holds my phone in the tripod pressed the off button. So I don't think any of my footage saved, but here is the first layer of the paper mache. Also, I forgot to mention this earlier, but I am dressed thematically. I have an Inkcap mushroom t-shirt on. You can watch me paint that t-shirt somewhere up here. I don't know which side of the screen the links go. Anyway, I'm now gonna wait until this dries a bit. I'm gonna probably point my fan directly at it and hope to speed up the process. And I'll see you in an hour or so when this dries enough that I can add a second layer to it. Behind the mushroom, out of sight of the camera, I have a tin can in which I mix some PVA glue and water. I have no idea what the ratio is. My method for this is to rip my newspaper the easy direction into long strips, dunk the whole strip into the glue water, then place it longitudinally on the mushroom from the top down. I then smooth it out with my fingers before going onto the next strip. My previous layer, the layer that didn't get recorded, I added the strips laterally, so I can easily see which layer is which. Anytime there's a small gap, I'll use a scrap of newspaper to fill it. I've sped this footage up a lot. It's a very repetitive process, but it took me a long time to paper mache the whole mushroom. The glue dripped everywhere when I was working. It's a good thing I put a mat down. Sometimes, when I had a small piece of newspaper, I'd wet it with the glue from the drips rather than dunking it, to try and avoid all that glue going to waste. I also have so much glue on my hands, and it was too liquidy to have a satisfying peel at the end, so I was just picking glue off my skin while waiting for this layer to dry. I've done 2 layers of paper mache now, and I'm aiming to do 1 more tonight, and then let it all dry. And then I can, once it's dry, test if that is solid enough or if I need to add another layer. Also for this layer, I'm going to be using this instead of the newspaper, so that it is a blank layer, so I have to do less layers of paint over the whole thing to remove all the, text-looking stuff. So hopefully this works out. I feel like I'm doing thumbs up a lot. I don't know how else to transition into speed time-lapse though, so enjoy my awkward thumbs up. For this layer of paper mache, rather than tearing my crepe paper into long strips, I tore it into chunks, and starting from the top of my cap, I placed them gradually downward. I knew I wouldn't have enough crepe paper to cover the whole mushroom, and I wanted the edge of the cap to be the section with a newsprint layer instead, since that's the part of the cap that will be painted black or dark grey, and the text won't show up through the paint the way it would on white sections of the cap. Again, this is a very sped up time-lapse. The process is repetitive and rather boring to watch. Okay, I am done. I've done 3 layers of paper mache. Hopefully that's enough. I'll have to check once it's dry because at the moment it doesn't have any structural stability, but that's because the whole thing's wet. So I'm going to leave that overnight and hopefully that'll be enough to dry well enough that I can test if it's enough layers, and if I need to add more layers I can add those tomorrow. I am planning on leaving it dry for a couple days before I paint it though to make sure it's fully dry. Anyway, yeah, this has been fun. There's glue drips everywhere, but luckily I thought to put a drop cloth down, and I need to clean up enough that I can actually, use my apartment tomorrow. I'm gonna clean up, then go to bed, and I'll check in with you guys with hopefully a dry mushroom hat in either tomorrow or in a couple of days. See ya! Okay, it's the next day. This has dried very well. And I think it's solid enough. Hopefully it's solid enough. I mean, I'm not going to be putting it through too much wear and tear, hopefully. And it looks amazing. So my plan right now is I want to put some fabric around the inside to make it slightly snugger fit, and also so that, this weird cut-out cardboard edge isn't directly against my head, because it's not particularly comfortable to wear at the moment. So I've got some fabric that I'm going to glue around here, and then I'm also going to add glue gun lines all around here to mimic the gills of the mushroom. It won't be a particularly visible detail, but I think it'll just elevate this design a little bit. So, I've got my glue gun, I need to get it heating up, and then we'll get started on that. Unfortunately, the angle I'm filming this from doesn't really show what I'm doing, so I'll have to explain it. First, I cut my fabric into a few longish strips, then I put glue gun glue along the cardboard edge and stuck the fabric down bit by bit. From there I cut notches into the fabric so it could be folded over, glued down those folds with the glue gun, realized that wasn't really working, and switched to using a thick layer of PVA glue over the fabric, which I spread with my fingers. I have just, as I slather this with PVA glue, come to the realization that I'm going to have to wait for the PVA glue to dry before I can do the glue gun gills. So, I didn't think this through, but I think the PVA glue is going to stick the fabric down better than the glue gun was. So, I think this was the right call. It is just going to make this take a little bit longer, because I am going to have to wait for this to dry, and I'm not sure how long that will take. Anyway, back to it. I'm finishing up the PVA gluing of the fabric, and then I set my fan to blow directly onto the glue to make it dry faster so I can get to the gills. Also, excuse the noise of the fan if that's showing up on the microphone, but I think for the glue gunning segment I am going to change my camera angle to be filming down again, because I did realize that I don't think you could see much of what I was doing, because this was facing toward me the whole time, away from the camera. So I think the top-down view is going to be better for this. So, yeah. I will see you guys in like an hour or two when the glue is dry. I have no idea how long this will take. Creating the glue gun gills was supposed to be simple, but the glue really wasn't behaving. I expected it to come out in nice thin straight lines, but the glue kept beading or coming out gloopy. I'm not sure if I just have low quality glue sticks or if I wasn't letting it get hot enough before gluing or what, but I kept having to go over one line of glue multiple times. It's a good thing that these gills won't be very visible, since even with all that they look quite wonky. I changed the camera zoom for the painting segment of this video, since the regular zoom wasn't quite wide enough to show the whole cap. I started the painting of the mushroom cap with the underside. I had to look up what color ink cap gills are for this. I had assumed that they were white, like many mushroom gills are, but it turns out that they're a dark grey, close to black when ink caps are matured. I gave this mushroom one coat of black paint to cover all the glue and cardboard, squirting my paint directly onto the cardboard and spreading it out for there, and it was quite a quick process. When the underside of the mushroom hat was dry, I flipped it over and started colouring the cap itself. I started with a layer of pale grey paint over the entire cap, a grey that I made by mixing white, black, and a little bit of brown. One coat of that grey wasn't quite enough to cover up the texture of the newspaper beneath, so I added a second coat before moving on to the shading of the mushroom. Ink cap mushrooms are white at the top of the cap, fading down to grey as it gets closer to the edges. The very edges of the cap are inky black. When ink cap mushrooms mature, they basically self-destruct, dissolving into inky black liquid that contains their spores. The same thing happens to ink cap mushrooms when picked, so they only last a few hours if foraged. The classic dripping ink look that gives these mushrooms their name is their spores beginning to dissolve. I blended all the paint together while it was still mostly wet, and my brush strokes add to the texture of the mushrooms. I started by painting the top of the cap with a pale grey that's almost white, and I started adding darker grey around the rim of the cap, adding more and more layers of darker and darker colour on top of it. I switched between white and black, making the top lighter and the edges darker, until I was using black straight from the tube for the very edge of my mushroom. The final detail of ink cap mushrooms, whose full name is shaggy ink cap mushrooms, is the white shaggy texture of their caps. I used a dry brush with stiff bristles to add white paint in patches around the cap to mimic that shaggy texture, as well as to hide any flaws of my paint job below. The ink cap mushroom hat is fully painted. I also, off camera, added on the inside some cardboard straps so that it's not sitting on my head only with the outer rim, because that was kind of uncomfortable. It's a lot more comfortable now. It's not the most comfortable thing in the world. It is still, cardboard, not fabric, but it is wearable, which is a good thing. The next and hopefully final step is to make all the ink drips around the edge, and my plan for that is making little strings of beads and then using a hot glue gun to attach those strings of beads so that they're dangling down all around the edge, but not so far down that I can't see. Before I get started with that, I'm going to try the hat on so you can see how it's looking, and then I will adjust the camera to be able to see what I'm working on while I do the beading, so that I don't end up just sitting here with my arms kind of wiggling on a time lapse, but you can't actually see anything I'm doing. I think it's looking pretty good. I'm super happy with this so far. All it needs is its nice little drippies. I got a whole pack of plastic beads from a thrift store a while ago with this project in mind, and I also have black pony beads, which I'm sorting out from a Ziploc bag containing many colours. I'm using a watercolour paint palette to sort the beads, but pretty quickly in the process this sorting system will devolve into beads spread out all over my floor. I'm just using sewing thread to thread the beads onto, doubled up for a bit more strength. It isn't the best string to use, but it's the only black string adjacent thing I have. I have a lot of variety of shaped beads to use, including several teardrop shaped types, which I'm using for the ends of my bead strings. For each string I just add beads based on vibes, some of which will hang down and some of which will be glued around the rim between the drips. This process took about 2 hours and I've sped up the footage a lot. For the first half of this process I was just watching YouTube videos in the background. When I thought I might have enough beads, I got my glue gun out and began sticking them to the rim of the mushroom hat. I would add a bead of glue to the top of one drip and between sections of beads along the rim until I reached my second drip. Each string of beads makes 2 drips, so I quickly realized that my 4 bead strings were not enough and I went back to threading beads. For the second half of this process, I got a chance to voice call one of my best friends, who before now did not have a nickname yet on the channel. We ended up discussing nicknames on the call while I worked, and henceforth she shall be known as Garnet the Gremlin. She wanted a name that had alliteration, and I firmly vetoed her being known as the gastrointestinal gremlin or the glucose gremlin. This is the same friend who appeared in my April Fool's video several years ago, and she helped me set up my YouTube channel and had the honor of being my first ever subscriber. Anyway, back to the beads. I continued to make strings of beads of varying lengths until I finally had enough and went back to gluing. Gluing these bead strings took a long time. I had to hold each section of beads in place until the glue completely dried before I could move on, and each string had 4 or 5 sections of glue. I was also trying to keep the glue from getting on the beads themselves, although without much success. A lot of this footage is just me holding the beads in place with one hand and fidgeting with stray bits of glue with my other. I also got hot glue on my hand several times. Luckily I don't have any lasting burns, but it hurt at the time, and I got told off by Garnet for being careless, deservedly. Finally, the drips were done though, and all the pain and tedium was worth it. All I had to do now is film the reveal footage, and surely that would be a quick and easy process to finish off the weekend with. Well, I was going to film the reveal footage now, but it is raining. And my hat is made of paper. And also I don't want to be wet. So I guess I'll need to film the reveal footage either after classes or next weekend. Because I'm back at class tomorrow. And I don't think it's going to clear up in time for it to still be light out today. That's a shame. It's very pretty, and I like that it's cooling everything down. I just don't want to film in it. I love it so much. Every day I am stepping closer to becoming the creature I truly am. The fantasy being. It's so much fun. I love when they just jiggle. I don't know if you can hear that. I hope that sounded good. It's not the most comfortable, but I will wear it anyway. It's so much fun. I'm a bit out of breath because I just spent like an hour filming all my reveal footage. A lot of that is going to be on my Instagram only, because it'll be to music and stuff. So, you should totally go follow me on my Instagram as I post things over the next couple weeks. I put a lot of work and time and effort into those videos, so I would love it if you would check them out. Anyway, I don't know if I have very many final thoughts on this. It was so much fun. The process from start to finish was me just trying things, and most of them worked, which was nice. I love it when things work out like that. It wasn't actually that difficult. It's so much fun to wear. I definitely recommend, if you're into mushrooms, giving this a try. And tag me on Instagram if you end up making a mushroom hat. It doesn't have to be an ink cap, obviously. Most of the mushroom hats I see are like the classic toadstool flyer Garrett type looking. I mean, I just love mushroom hats. All my mushroom themed characters have mushroom hats. It's so much fun. And I mean, who doesn't want this? I'm rambling at this point because it's been a long day and I'm frazzled. But I hope you enjoyed. I'll see you again in 2 weeks. Remember to check out my Instagram for more footage of me frolicking around as a mushroom creature. And until then, bye!